how close you are in these games. They're all coming down to the wire. And so if it all of a sudden it was hopeless or morale was low, yeah, that's a completely different animal. That's not the case here. But there's true evidence that we can right this thing. And even if you were 3 games back, the last 7 games matter, and history will tell you that.
Inside the Nest, an Atlanta Falcons audio experience. Here is your host, Craig Green.
Touchdown Atlanta!
A win in Tampa despite all the stress, but 3 straight losses, and it's now a hot mess. Welcome inside the Nest. I'm your host, Craig Green. Let's get into it. Let's give credit of the sound from AtlantaFalcons.com. That was Arthur Smith giving his state of the team on Monday, November 13th. The Falcons enter their bye week with a record of 4 wins and 6 losses, losers of 3 games in a row and 4 of the last 5. The Falcons sit in 3rd place in the NFC South, 1 full game behind the Saints, who are 5-5. Tampa Bay, who the Falcons defeated in Week 7, are a half game out in 2nd place at 4 wins and 5 losses. The Bucs have a road game at San Francisco this Sunday, and had the Falcons won in Arizona this past weekend, they would be in 1st place with a divisional tiebreaker in their pocket. So let's take a look at injuries for the Falcons over the past few games. The big one is obviously Grady Jarrett, who tore his ACL diving for and recovering a fumble against the Titans back in Week 8. Since then, the Falcons have had some injury concerns. Desmond Ridder was checked for concussion in that same Titans game. Drake London missed the game against Minnesota, but was back for the Cardinals game. Mac Hollins, D. Alford, and David Onyemata all missed the Arizona game with ankle injuries. Quarterback Taylor Heineke suffered a hamstring injury against Arizona and was replaced by Ridder. So aside from Grady, Troy Anderson and Avery Williams being lost for the season, the Falcons have been fairly healthy throughout the first 10 games. So since we're reviewing 4 games at once, we'll just take a look at the scores from each game and some brief notes. The Falcons overcame 3 red zone turnovers, fumbles specifically by Desmond Ridder, to escape Tampa Bay with a 16-13 victory. Younghoe Koo booted a 51-yarder as time expired to get the dub in that game. A week later, they traveled to Nashville to play the Titans in Arthur Smith's homecoming. Remember, he was an assistant with the Titans for 10 seasons. That homecoming did not go so well. The Falcons lost 28-23 at Nissan Stadium. DeAndre Hopkins and Will Levis looked like Rice and Montana that day, connecting on 3 of Levis's 4 TD passes. Atlanta had the ball in the final moments, but Van Jefferson dropped a wide-open pass on 4th and 1 to end the Falcons' chances. Next, they returned home to face Minnesota and lost again, this time 31-28 to Josh Dobbs and the Vikings. Dobbs literally joined the team about 4 days prior and was the backup to rookie Jaren Hall, who was knocked out of the game early on. The Falcons let Dobbs escape time after time, and it led to the Vikings stealing one from the Dirty Birds in the Nest. To add insult to injury, who caught the game-winning touchdown pass? Former Falcon special teamer Brandon Powell with 22 seconds left. And if that wasn't bad enough, then the Falcons traveled to Arizona and let another one slip away to the lowly Cardinals, who were 1-8 entering the game. That's 1 win and 8 losses. They lost this game by a final of 25-23. Taylor Heineke got injured in the 4th quarter, running for a first down, injured his hamstring, so he had to leave the game. And out goes Taylor Heineke. Re-enter Desmond Ridder. Ridder leads Atlanta down the field, scores the go-ahead touchdown. But for the 2nd week in a row, the Falcons' defense could not get the stop they needed to finish the game. Cardinals tight end Trey McBride was looking like the second coming of Tony Gonzalez this game. 8 receptions, 131 yards, including a 33-yard lollipop thrown to him by Kyler Murray to set up the game-winning field goal by the ageless Matt Prater. I mean, the Falcons, they've lost 4 of the past 5 games. and at 4-6 are not even close to where they or I thought they would be at this point in time. So, what is the good from these past 4 games? Let's figure it out. Younghoe Koo has been the most consistent player over the past 4 games. Between weeks 7 and 10, he's 11 of 11 on field goals, 7 for 7 on extra points. The only PAT he's missed all season long was in week 2, and he's only missed 1 field goal all season. That was in week 3. So other departments of good for the Falcons. Can't forget about Nate Landman, who's played fairly well over the past month. He stepped in for the injured Troy Anderson, and defensively, Atlanta did not really skip a beat with Anderson out. And that's not a knock on Anderson. That's just bigging up Nate Landman. He got his first career sack and interception against the Cardinals and has been pretty solid stepping in place of the Falcons' starting linebacker. Kyle Pitts also has played pretty well over the past 4 games. He's got 20 targets, 13 catches on those 20 targets for 188 yards in the last 4 games. They're not eye-popping numbers at all, but his regular involvement in the passing game is refreshing because there's been periods of time where it seems like a guy who's 6'6" and 250 pounds just completely disappears on the field. Not blaming anyone at all, but that's just how the games have gone sometimes. Now let's look at the bad. Well, where do we start? I mean, really, where do we start with the bad? Turnovers, let's start there, okay? 3 against Tampa in the red zone. A game that should have been academic at the beginning of the 4th quarter. That game was really a struggle at the end. The Falcons have turned it over 6 times in the past 4 games. 4 of them were fumbles, 3 of those by Desmond Ridder, 3 of them literally at the goal line as they were about to score touchdowns. Next, defense, I'm looking at you. Lately, the defense has been really leaky and has failed to take advantage of younger, less experienced quarterbacks and also teams with sticky situations in their QB rooms, a la Minnesota, a la Arizona by default, because they had Josh Dobbs. They let Josh Dobbs go. They played Clayton Tune. They said, oh, no, wait a minute. Kyler Murray's ready. So these are situations that the Falcons have not been able to take advantage of. I mean, Will Levis of the Titans, the game against Atlanta, he looked like he was winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year in his first ever start. I mean, he got 4 touchdown passes against the Falcons, 3 to Hopkins. The other one was thrown to Westbrook Ekine. The defense never made Levis uncomfortable enough to make critical mistakes that the Falcons could take advantage of. What's the other bad so far? The passing game. The passing game has not produced either. I mean, Atlanta could only muster 70 net passing yards against the previously 1-8 Arizona Cardinals. Let me say that again. 70 net passing yards. That is it. The game plan did seem to be to run the ball effectively enough to set up the pass, but something was out of sync throughout the game. I mean, perhaps that's why Arthur Smith called running plays on 3rd down at times, because he trusted the ground and pound more than putting the ball in the air. I mean, it's been a struggle with pass protection, route running, catching the football, protecting the quarterback. It's all been out of sync. So it's been really hard to watch the passing game and feel optimistic that they're going to convert, especially when you have 70 net passing yards against a 1-8 team, now 2-8 because of other issues that we will highlight in a moment. The other issue plaguing the Falcons, and part of the bad and why they've lost 3 of the last 4 games and 4 of the last 5, tackling. Tackling has been an issue the past couple of games. Josh Dobbs himself kept several plays alive because defenders could not bring him to the ground. Against Arizona, we saw the same thing, especially on the final drive of the game. Kyler Murray escaped what should have been a sack on 3rd and 10 in Arizona territory. Instead, he ran 13 yards for a first down after running about 40 yards in the backfield to escape. One play later, Trey McBride, the tight end, caught that bomb from Murray. The rest was pretty much academic from there. The Falcons have literally lost the last 2 games because of an inability to tackle the ball carrier when they had him dead to rights. So what's coming up next for the Falcons? Well, it's the bye week. So That means they have no game this Sunday. They'll be back in the building on Monday the 20th to get ready for the New Orleans Saints that following Sunday. So the Saints, again, we said, we listed they're 5-5 right now, sitting atop the NFC South. They have a bye week as well, so both teams will have an extra week of preparation for the other. Tampa Bay has a chance to pull into a virtual tie with the Saints for first in the South at 5-5. Should they pull what I would call a big upset over the 49ers? So that remains to be seen. But, of course, the Saints are the Falcons' biggest rival. This game always has some pettiness to it, some extra vitriol. The fans of each side do not like each other at all. And historically, these games have been really, really close. All right, so that's going to end it for this Atlanta Falcons audio experience. Want to thank you all for joining us and appreciate your patience as we were getting this multi-episode put together. We had to take a couple weeks off to handle some personal matters, but we are back and should be back with you on a weekly basis from here on out. Follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, Snapchat, YouTube, and Threads at Craig G Sports. Please like, subscribe, download, and share this podcast with any Falcons fans you know. And we will be back right after the New Orleans Saints game, the next edition of the throwback game that the Falcons will wear their mashup 1960s to 1990s throwback uniforms. So break out the old bird. If you got the hat, you got the shirt, anything with the old bird on it, break it out for the next 2 weeks because it'll be on and popping at the Benz coming up on the 26th of November. Again, remember, next week is the bye week, so we won't have an episode next week. And we'll return after the New Orleans Saints game somewhere between the 26th and 28th of November. So until then, hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday if you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate, just have a nice meal, have a day off, watch some football, enjoy your family, and gear up for what I say is the best rivalry in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons versus the New Orleans Saints. And we'll see everybody real soon. So until the Saints game is over, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. This is your guy CG saying sayonara and buenos noches.